you become fertile sooner. Like earlier, humans would become fertile earlier. Like girls can get pregnant at 9. So were we all born into slavery? I think a lot of the time you'd have girls, females being, becoming fertile and beginning cycles of pregnancy earlier. And so, that would take away our experience of childhood.
Was this how you described it to her?
This is how she was describing it to me when I asked her the
Oh, right.
question, because I put the question there and she just went off on it.
Mm-hmm.
And she was saying as well, the men would kind of be used for their sperm and then immediately put into labor.
Like in South Park, the
Yeah.
common joke Minds of Mars.
Yeah. No. Yeah, and then what did I say as well? Because I said something pretty snazzy at that point as well. Well, the thing is, I said that at that point, we wouldn't have the experience of our childhood. And a lot of the things that we kind of, as a race, kind of feel are definitive about us. Our experiences occur, during our experiences of childhood. And, there's also being creative. That's a big part of what we think about ourselves as humans. We're like, yeah, we're creative. We like to put our creations in museums and write our discoveries down in books and stuff. And, that just wouldn't be happening. So those are two very big parts of us.
Procreation, Anna. Morphogenesis.
Yeah.
I know scientific words.
You do think. Those are good words as well.
Morphogenesis is a good one, yeah.
I love that word.
I remember the impact that word had on you actually when I first said it to you.
It really did. That was such a good time. I remember thinking about it just as we walked through the fields in the Pishibury. Just thinking morphogenesis and looking around me and just feeling nice. Feeling swifty. Yeah. And, as well, I was asking her, like, what do you think, have you ever seen cows in the wild, like Highland cows or whatever? She's like, yeah, I think they they move around in packs, they're a bit like buffalo. Because we were thinking how cows, they don't have they don't have a family. She was saying, yeah, I mean, they don't really bond with the baby cow before they take them away of a day of breastfeeding. Actually, that's what I said, that they just get to have that initial bond, and then the baby cow gets taken away, and all night you hear the mother cows cry, and that's true. Like a lot of people I've known who are farmers have said that. You hear them just mooing all night, crying out for their babies.
But yes, obviously just like denial when you're trying to say that they don't feel shit.
No, but that's not what she was saying. She was saying that they do actually get to be, since there's the space, which of course is detrimental to the environment when you make deforestation happen, cut down a bunch of trees and just different types of plants to just grow this feed for the animals. But we didn't really get into that, but she was just saying that they're able to do it in a more sound way, where the babies get to stay, the ones who aren't cooked up into veal, get to stay with their mothers for like up to 2 weeks sometimes before they then get dragged off to meet a similar fate. And at that point they're already at quite a mature age. And
trying to rationalize and sort of justify and be an apologist for factory farming is fucking an odd position to take. Like, it's just indefensible.
But do you know what she kind of said? That it's something she had been born into, and at that point you're not really choosing to take up the mantle of being that kind of apologist. It's something that you just you learn from childhood, and it takes an event, I think, a lot of the time to make you kind of look at these, religion, if you're born into a very religious family, or racism or something like that. In fact, eating animals is a form of racism. Especially when you're like, I wouldn't eat dogs, but I would eat
It's the proper
cows.
racism.
Yeah, exactly.
Because otherwise it's...
The human race is only one. You have tribes.
Tribalism, but it's not as catchy. But yeah, proper racism is like fucking... yeah, that.
There's that, what if we didn't enslave cows? Would they maybe be like us? And they were both just like, that's quite a trippy thought, actually. And they were just like, phew. That's just like...
You gave them a mental image of cow people.
I did.
Good work.
I did, yeah.
And then in season 2, it might have been that because of that, other characters can now just get swapped out and then swapped back in from another dimension. Or Rick can just hop into another dimension and carry on with that variation of the scenario. So it like it's not a character arc anymore. There's a character variance, and you can. And what's implied then is that like the sort of the normal Summer, the true Summer, is in one of the dimensions somewhere, being her truest form of herself, what it means to be Summer, and then all the other ones sort of veer off in some way and just become some weird variants, or maybe get picked off or die and don't ascend to the true like divinity of Summer, and like, live their life to the fullest or whatever it is.
That's like Plato's theory of the forms, isn't it? The forms in the cave.
Well, I don't know if it's like them.
Yeah, it is, where you have like, oh god, you were so silly. He had like, outside of the cave, he had like the true table. But then when he's in the cave, he just has like people.
What's silly about that?
That's just the idea of a great big floating table.
It's not, it doesn't have to, it's not stipulated that it's floating.
No, I see it like, ah! I remember the first time I came across it.
Putting words in Plato's mouth now.
I had a good giggle about it. I did, because I was imagining this guy, like all his life he's just sitting there in the cave. It was so visual for me, just staring at the shadows on the wall. So he turns around, there's fire, and people are taking tables past, or whatever shape. Then he goes out of the cave, and that's where he sees, like the one table that all tables need to ascend to need to have in some way conform to the notion of table. I was just imagining what would the perfect table be like. I was just imagining floating there in light, and he's just there, Plato's just there like swimming through like the perfect table, the perfect jug, the perfect earring or whatever.
It's nice that you have that vision about it.
Yeah. That's what I think is silly.
But that's what they're doing with Rick as well. Like the Council of Ricks, because all the Ricks are interdimensional, and he's approaching like the most sort of dynamic that you can be, because he's realizing that it's not disposable, but just like infinitely variant. So as they go through, some of them will just get picked off, and some of them will jump out, and like he'll just be the one that hops around, kind of exploiting, trying to rinse everything for what it has, and then exploit it, and moving on to the next.
That's what makes us human, man.
Yeah. Going to get to the point where Rick is just like all the characters are swapping out interdimensionally all the time, and they all just can become sort of like a shapeshifter almost. Like they can be any variants of that core thing themselves, or not, because when you get to the point of infinite dimensions, you can come across a Morty that's just like a jelly baby. I think they have already come across like weird shit like that, like where.
Do you know what this makes me think of?
What?
This makes me think of times when I have acted in a way which felt to be out of character. Like how I've had like different changes across.
You're not the perfect you.
I'm not the perfect me, no.
Yeah, somewhere out there in the multiverse there probably is a perfect you. You're just laughing at how inferior you are. Loser.
Maybe like the different times across my life when I've like had like changes and stuff, like in a way that's you swapping out with other dimension versions of you.
What? It's not.
If you kind of take it as a metaphor as opposed to an actual physical reality.
What? So that you're now kind of saying that that's you experiencing a hologram of yourself, your true self, or something.
Sometimes when like I will, for example, have my period and just be acting all weird.
Yeah.
Like in a way, you could say that that's. Maybe at that point that is like just some other dimension of me just kind of merging with my own, not in quite a cool cartoon like punchy way where I'm actually like hopping
the same thing.
through a portal, but where I just kind of just like the two me's just kind of merge and I get a bit.
I get what you're saying. There is a time aspect to it then.
Or if like there's like an angry vibe, like when I'm impatient with Shay or whatever, like I'm actually merging with the other interdimensional part of me, and it's not this thing where like the angry me hops through a green shiny portal. But there is an emergence
I think
there.
I see what you're saying.
And maybe that's
where
what it looks like if you have like the goggles or whatever.
Yeah, but like you're sort of in communion with, or in synchronicity with a more perfect version of yourself, if not the most perfect version of yourself, and you sort of veer out of it. But and that's the like.
Yeah.
That what you're experiencing for the rest of the time is not emerging, but you as your perfect self, and then when the merging happens, it's you. Merging to more imperfect.
That's what it feels like. That's actually what it feels like.
Yeah, so maybe.
And then like when we merge away, I'm just like, meh. If it's a bad one, I'm just kind of like, ugh.
But if it's a bad one, it's a weird modifier for what I just said, because it's like,
Yeah.
what I'm implying more then is that across a multitude of dimensions in the multiverse, there is a merging of synchronicity, of the yous that are being most you-like, and you feel like you're one of them, and then there's times where maybe it's more like a ripple than a merge, and like some kind of deviation from the perfect path of the ultimate you in the multiverse. Like, you commune with that in a way, like.
Yeah, but then imagine if like they kind of just merge for like an extended period of time. I like my visual aid.
So we won't have many viewers for 20 minutes.
Wait for it. Boobs at the end.
Oh my god, boobs at the end. It's so worth it. The whole way, just